It's a great show.
Yeah.
I loved that show. All right, we're going to talk about Booksmart.
Yeah. We're like, totally.
So, we're here.
It's on the big screen, yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us today, Steven. Steven actually was my DP on Solace. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty because it's Steven.
And I was one of like 8 DPs on.
We might want to say what
bullshit.
DP means, because when you said DP...
Oh, director of photography.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cinematographer. Yeah, that's not good. Just running around saying DP.
DP.
Yeah, my mind went somewhere completely different.
Yeah.
What did you think of it?
Boring.
Boring.
Yeah, no.
No.
That's-
I work in a college in Title IX. I've learned a lot.
I'm a white male, so I mean.
You just know.
You just know.
Well, anyway.
I
So,
learned something new today.
yeah. So Booksmart. This is my second time seeing it. I love Booksmart. This is your choice. You
Yeah.
chose. So we'll be doing Booksmart this week, and then the next episode we'll be comparing and contrasting that with Superbad.
Yeah, because they're basically the same movie.
Right. Except Superbad's the older brother kind
Yeah,
of
'cause
version, right?
Yeah, Superbad this was 2019, and then Superbad was 2007.
Okay, I haven't seen Superbad, so we're not talking about that today. We're talking about Booksmart. So I love this movie. This is your first time. Mm-hmm. Did you like it?
I liked it. It was not what I expected.
Yeah.
I've seen it online. I just never really caught my attention because it was kind of like high school kids, not really my demographic, my area, but I
Right.
really enjoyed it. Parties were not that way when I was in school or high school or college. I never
Yeah.
are when you're like watching a movie regardless,
No.
but
Yeah.
it's interesting because now I have a daughter that is, a teenager, and it's kind of like, this is what she's gonna get into. It's kind of like different kind of attention now.
I know. Well, the high school movies are never quite the same as real
They
high
get
school.
the inspiration from somewhere.
But I gotta say, I mean, I did substitute teaching for a while, and like the characters are all kind of there, but it's just obviously heightened. But there are some things that we didn't see in our high school that I think are actually popping up a lot more now, or like the gender-neutral bathroom. That was interesting. I've never seen that in a high school movie or at high school. But I don't think they're doing. We're in Memphis, so I don't think Memphis is. We're too Bible
It's not as
Belt.
common in the South.
But it's happening though, right? Like
It's happening
in the
in
US.
like it's happening in I went to a bar the other day and they had gender neutral bathrooms, and it was kind of like go whichever, and I was like looking, it's kind of like I can if you're on. They were like, oh,
It
go
didn't
whatever
matter.
you want.
Yeah, I like that.
Especially when you're a woman and you want to go pee in a crowded place, there's usually a line to one and not a line to other. So it's kind of like I can go whatever I want.
I thought this movie did a really good
Very-
job of the whole idea of gender neutral or inclusivity without overdoing it. They didn't like necessarily draw attention to it. It was just kind of there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the representation was across the board.
And there was no like virtue signaling. It's kind of like we want to preach and this is the right way to
Exactly.
do it. It was just very like,
there.
the way things are.
They just showed people, and like one of the main characters happened to be a lesbian, which it's mostly inconsequential throughout the entire movie for the most part. She's still just kind of like an archetype. We haven't done the Superbad one, but she's more like the Michael Cera character in Superbad, or there's any X number of those characters throughout all of these movies. They kind of follow those archetypes more than like the lesbian archetype. They just presented things, and they did a lot of. That was one thing that I will say about this movie over some of these other ones is that, especially with comedies, this did a lot better job on the filmmaking side of it. Like they did. Like that whole claymation sequence.
Yeah.
They did a lot of showing things through nonverbal performance or photography or editing, as opposed to like having people standing around talking, which when we get into some of these other teen coming of age films, you're going to see that that's not how everybody does it. A lot of it is just actors standing around talking to one another.
It was such a clever movie too, because like at first like you kind of think it's going to be like every other high school movie, whatever. But when she's in the bathroom, that scene, and she finds out that everybody, like, she's been working really, really, really hard her entire life, and no fun, just work, which was, by the way, me in high school. Actually, that's me now.
That's you all the time.
That's me all the time.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, I love the message of this because it doesn't matter. Like, it just doesn't matter. Because, like, all the kids, like, having, they all got into Yale anyways. They got into these big colleges. And just everything broke down.
That was the one part that I was a little bit like, okay, this whole school is overachievers. I mean,
Obviously,
come
that's
on.
not true. But I think that it worked for the message of the movie. Like, that, I mean, because we definitely are in the an era where working hard doesn't necessarily get you places.
Exactly.
You know, like
Yeah.
it just doesn't. And I mean, working hard's great, but like, you know, back in the, 50s are like, you know, if you work this hard, you can work your way up the ladder. Now it's like, hey,
Or
what
like,
does it matter?
you know, it's like you work really hard and you get there eventually where like, which is current crisis that I'm having now. You know, it's like you work really hard, you get over there and you realize kind of like, this sucks, this is not what I wanted. And I
Right.
missed out on a lot of stuff and I could have done something different that really was fulfilling otherwise. I'm glad that they are showing that there are other ways to get there without sacrificing the fun part and, you know, your passions and other things that you want to do.
Well, it's like that character said, it's not that we didn't care about school, we didn't just only care about school. And I think that that's very healthy. I need that lesson all the time.
Right, me too.
When I take days off from work, like I go and shoot stuff.
I mean, today is my day off and
Right.
we're working.
It's a beautiful sunny day outside, and we're
But for me,
sitting in a
this is
darkened
different
room.
because it's like
fine.
this is like my fun work. But it's something that I enjoy. It's like as
Right.
opposed to like my work. That is like my soul-sucking job that actually pays a bill. Like this is like
Yeah.
this is the fun that I get to
But that's
have.
the problem now is like most jobs are soul sucking and we want to do other work. So we are working outside of work so that we can get a job that we enjoy so we don't have to just work.
But I kind of think like they did make that point because it's like there is like you have this super achiever that is like she has a plan mapped out and has a plan mapped out for not only her but her friend, and her friend is kind of like I have a different passion, different idea, and I want to do something different, and didn't tell her until like the whole thing blowed up, and it was kind of like. I'm leaving, and it's not gonna be for a summer. It's gonna be for a year. And the other one, like, just like her whole world broke down. It's kind of like, what about the plan? And she's like, it's your plan, not mine. And I think she did a really good job towards the end. It's kind of like, all right, I'll go with the flow, and like, I'll do my
Yeah.
plan, and we're still friends, and I love y'all. I'm happy that y'all got into colleges, and I'll figure my shit. You know, like it was very like her transition to be like, okay, I'm not really special because that was her thing. It's like I need to be more special than everybody else. And realizing that she was not special, like, was very positive.
And that's such a freeing thing too, though. 'Cause, I mean, movies and books and everything, they teach you like you have to be special, but it's okay to just be normal. It's just okay to be just you. I mean, there's like movie archetypes.
I mean that in general.
Yeah,
it's
all
the
of them, like
Joseph
Luke
Campbell
Skywalker.
hero.
Yeah, it's the whole Joseph Campbell thing, which
Yeah.
I love Joseph Campbell. But I mean, I think that all of us trying to live up to that, like I have to be the one special one, and I still do that. I mean,
And
I
you have
base
to
my
work
whole life on
harder
it.
to be
Yeah.
and I don't think that you have to.
I mean, you have to think too. You have a life, like you've only got the one, and if you spend all of it chasing a dream or a plan, at the end of your life, sure, maybe you reached the plan, but did you live your life? And that's the whole idea with the party is go live and enjoy and let go.
And I think that was also like what the kids were trying to say. It's like not only focus on school. It's kind of like we had fun along the progress.
Yeah.
Along the process. And
Man, I
she's
need
like,
to have fun.
Yeah. Me too. I just want
Thanks.
for that.
Pour me another glass.
I like it when he was like,
Here, this
Go
is how you have
get
fun.
a second bottle of Prosecco.
What about the parties? I didn't go to parties in high school. Like, not one. I wasn't allowed to. I was allowed to go to Bible sleepovers.
Wow.
Do you see why I don't have fun? No. I actually kind of like the boat party the best, even though there's like nobody at that one.
I was looking into like the idea of the dinner murder party.
That was
like,
cool.
It looked very elaborated, and like I would go to that
I
like
would
right
too.
now.
My favorite part of the murder mystery party is the peek behind the curtain where they go into the kitchen and the rest of the family's like, "Can we come out now?" It's like, "No, I have the house till 11."
And it was
Yeah.
like Vanna's house too, and like I don't know, everything like the atmosphere is kind of like I want to go to the party now. Yeah,
I
it
think
was,
I've
like,
just been in the
very-
mood for parties because we've been.
It was
Yeah.
very sophisticated. I liked
Yeah,
it.
I like sophisticated parties. I like that one better than the third party, the teenage one.
Yeah, the
that was
teenage one
fine.
was just like a teenage one. you
Yeah,
know, it's like,
I'm
getting
not interested in
drunk.
teenagers, which
That's
is why I
why-
watched this movie. I mean, and also that whole like animated, or was it claymation? What was it?
It was like stop motion because they
It
were
was
like
stop
Barbie
motion?
dolls.
Okay.
Because they were not anatomically correct. Their outfit, like
Yeah,
the
it was
outfits they
perfect.
were
It was
wearing
exactly.
were like it was like a nurse's costume and like a farmer girl thing because she had the corn
Yeah.
stuck in her hand. And then when
Yeah.
she falls off the thing, it's like, no, you gotta stick my shoe in your cornhole.
And it still worked. Like, how does that work? I think my realistic brain was like, How are you guys doing this?
I was
Like,
confused.
Doing what?
well, I'm imagining them like, okay, that's what they see, right? But like, what are they actually doing? Are they just pretending, or
Have you
like?
ever been around somebody who's just like tripping balls like that? Because they're not very like.
Yeah, I guess I have. They just
They're
think
not
they
super
see.
athletic. They just think wonderful
It
things
just-
are happening.
it
It's
was
the
a
power of the
very-
human mind.
It's awesome.
It was
Yeah.
a coordinated.
They were probably like on the floor, just mostly like.
Yeah, but it was just a very coordinated trip. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Oh.
they saw the same
Yeah.
stuff, you know, like.
That doesn't happen in it.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it's fine. I mean, I can allow it.
That's still my favorite sequence of this whole movie. Is that part?
I think my favorite sequence was the dance scene where when she got to the party and she found her crush, and they had that like elaborate, beautiful like dance scene, and then reality took over, and it's like, hey, this is not cool at all, because that's my mind. Like I envision the elaborate, you know, classy kind of stuff, and then the world's always just like garbage.
The way I remember high school parties is just us standing around in a basement.
So lame.
Because we had basements in Ohio. We don't have them.
Yeah, I
here.
know. I'm from Michigan. You know, something else I was thinking about, because, you know, it's the classic bromance kind of film, right?
Yeah.
But, I mean, obviously it's girls. Have there been very many movies that are, like, two girls in that situation? Like, the bromance kind of, what would you call it?
Bridesmaids kind of fits into that.
Okay.
They've done it, doing it, and I think that's why this movie resonated so well, doing it of this age group for, like,
Yeah, not many.
It's
young-
new-ish.
young girls,
Yeah.
women, however that line divides. Like, this was a new take on it.
Yeah.
To do it that way. The teen coming of age, like, field for the most part has kind of been dominated by
Love stories, right?
love stories, and it's also it's
Cinderella
very
stuff.
white male dominated
Yeah.
too. There's other movies that kind of fall similarly to this, like Edge of 17 is one with Haley Steinfeld, and because I watch a lot of these damn movies, I'm gonna cop to that right now. But
haven't seen it.
usually ones that have female leads push more towards like the Netflix teen romantic thing, like P.S. I Love You, like all those three. The one with the the guy who I thought was in this for a minute, but it wasn't him. But they usually push more towards like the romantic comedy side of it.
Yeah.
Whereas,
The friendship.
yeah,
Right.
no, this one is the first one that I've ever seen that's just like, this is about these two characters. Like, this actually passes a Bechdel test. The rest of those don't necessarily.
Right, yeah. It was
That's what I'm thinking.
very refreshing, just the friendship, and also just relationships with other women too. Like one girl in the beginning in the bathroom that was the enemy, like, you know.
AAA.
Is that her name?
Yeah, because she was accused of picking
Oh,
dudes up
right.
and
Yeah.
banging them. And she was
So-
like, I didn't do that. No, I totally did
did.
that. But where am I supposed to do it? At my house where my dad could just walk in?
I actually
I
kind
want
of
to
like
enjoy
that she
this.
actually did it, because like it's so lame to be like, no, I'm really a good girl. I just, you know, I have this bad reputation because of one thing. Well, what if she wants to do it? Fine, it's
Well,
fine.
and her motivation for doing it isn't like insecurity or trying to
She
please
just
some guys.
likes
She's
it.
just like, I just like doing it. And
Cool.
All
So
the males were kind of like, you know, secondary characters. I mean, like,
Yeah.
they were there and they work, but, you know, I didn't need to know their story, you know. Like,
Right.
the guy that she kisses in the stage, it was kind of like, oh, I'm glad that worked out, but it's kind of like he was,
it was supportive story.
I'm barely
lines for
there. I
them.
mean, like, I know his story, I know his name, and I don't need to.
Right.
the male characters in this probably get about as much screen time as the female characters in a male-centric story.
Right.
So, like,
it's fine.
it's like that first Wonder Woman, where it's like that movie could be a Superman movie, and you would just make Lois Lane instead of Steve Trevor, and it's like
Right.
it's the same thing.
But I did like how, in the end, it didn't turn like that whole this person's an enemy and stays an enemy, or I'm better than you kind of thing. Like everybody was just kind of like, hey, let's
Or you
all
had to,
be
like, put
friends.
her down and have a win
Yeah.
sort of situation.
It was just very like, hey, let's just accept each other and be cool.
It was kind of like we grow out of this situation. Like,
Yeah.
it was a good experience. We all grow, and that's what she said in the speech. You know, it's kind of like, love y'all,
Right.
learn a lot, go be great, toodles. You know.
It was so positive.
Yeah, I
it's
really
a
liked
really
it.
positive movie and a good. I mean, that's something. I mean, wouldn't you want your teenage daughter to watch something like
Oh,
that?
she's gonna watch it.
Yeah. It's so much better too, because like some of these other ones that are like the teenage ones. I mean, obviously they're all romantic, but it's very much that Cinderella kind of story, or I don't know, whatever, where you need a man.
A lot of them, like again, talking from there's like the two types of them. There's the male perspective ones that are a little bit more akin to this because they're more comedy driven. And then there's the rom-com ones. And the rom-com ones are more about these ideas of like a girl getting a guy to complete herself, that sort of thing. And then the male-driven ones are like guy getting girl as like a prize as a part of a competition, which is also really weird and problematic in its own part. This kind of just avoids all of that for the most part.
The other thing that I like was how they took the whole like disappointment, the romance disappointment, because it was kind of like, oh, it didn't work out with this one, but here's somebody else that may work out with. So it's kind of like, no revenge plot, no transition, no kind of like, oh, we're gonna get them, like they will suffer for it. It's kind of like,
yeah, that's
move
true.
the fuck on.
Neither
There's
of the
just
characters.
acceptance and moving on.
Yeah.
Exactly, which is like in our generation, all the movies was like so ingrained into like, I don't know, Animal House or like Revenge of the Nerds. It was kind of like revenge because they don't like you, or like try harder. It's like, here it was like the complete opposite, and I really like that for the standpoint of like consent. It's like, there is a no, and there is a okay, and there is a move on.
Yeah.
You don't see that much in movies. And
No.
like, as a mom, and like, like what I do, I was kind of like, thank you, we need to see that. And when you move on to something that is kind of like on the same page with you, like good things happen, like he's the guy on the stage, or like, the other girl, well, didn't start, but, the girl turned around and was waiting for her outside and willing to give her another chance.
Yeah.
After she threw up on her. So like that was a really good start after all.
Most movies, like, there's either a revenge component or you end up with the person that you wanted all along and who's out of your league, and it's just like, oh, I finally made it kind of thing. But I mean, that doesn't happen most of the time, and it's silly to keep striving for it. So it is nice to just have a movie where it's like, hey, life goes on.
Exactly.
It's still cool.
This guy was not for you, or
Yeah.
was interested in somebody else, and you can find somebody else, and it's okay. You're still gonna be happy.
Booksmart's probably my favorite, like second favorite coming of age film. Because my favorite is still Dope, like far and away, because that is the only one that I've ever seen that actually has like real consequences to it.
I haven't seen that.
This movie's about like finding yourself and going to a party. Dope's about like running drugs and Bitcoin and like trying to like survive and not get killed by a bunch of gangbangers, but brilliantly done.
There was another movie that I would actually like to review on the show at some point. The writer and director of that one was a writer on this one, Susanna Fogel. I don't know how to say her name. Maybe I'm saying it wrong. Sorry if I am. She directed The Spy Who Dumped Me.
Oh, I love that movie.
It kind of like reminded me of that movie a little bit, and now I see why, because one of the writers was on it. But that's another one that's a really fresh take on just, two women being the center of a comedy. Well, that one's a comedy action movie, but
But still, we like the female friendship, like being the center of.
We should do that one.
Yeah,
I love that movie. I also like doing comparison contrast,
Yeah.
so we could totally contrast that with something else too. That'd be fun.
I would be interested to see that just because, like, I've seen so many of those. And a part of it just is because it's Melissa McCarthy over and over again. But like, she did another like a spy one.
We could contrast it with that then.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because like the spy one that Melissa McCarthy's in was directed by Paul Feig, and Feig falls directly in with like the super bad Judd Apatow, Seth Rogen, like that whole group.
That'd be interesting.
Those movies aren't movies a lot of times. Like even like Superbad, that one you'll see it's like it's not really a movie. It's edited improv. Like again with this, it used the full film language, whether it was cinematography or editing or blocking, just non-verbal stuff to kind of convey things and tell things as opposed to show things as opposed to telling things.
It was such a clever movie on just letting these female characters be, and without having to preach.
Flowy.
Yeah, I heard this story, and correct me if I'm wrong, someone on the internet, I guess. I think it was in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And I think the guys were, like, struggling to write Dee's character because they kept trying to, like, think of her as a woman and blah, 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 and they just kept getting tripped up because they're like, we don't get it. We just don't know what to do. And she was like, why don't you guys just write me, like, a guy and just stop thinking about it, just write it, and then all of a sudden it worked, And I think that happens a lot in movies too. Like, we're definitely trying to like make more movies that are female centric and normalizing the female voice or female stories. And I think that sometimes movies get tripped up by calling attention to it without just letting it be normal and, you know, letting us just soak it in as it is.
It's like that line from Mean Girls, like, stop trying to make fetch happen. Like, just let your characters be. Don't try to, like, force them or, like, force the idea. Like, again, the reason why I think this movie works is just these characters are just these characters. And you're just telling a story, and they so happen to be two girls. One so happens to be a lesbian. I mean, the closest thing you have to like a stereotype is probably like the gay theater nerd because but there's a reason some stereotypes are accurate.
But it works. But it's not over the top. It's not pushy. You know, like he is who he is, and you know, it feels into the narrative too. Yeah.
That kid actually is like a huge theater actor, so like it fits perfectly that he would do that.
Well, anything else about the movie that anybody wanted to talk about?
I think the only thing I was missing was a dog.
A dog?
Yeah, I feel like there should have been a dog.
I have a dog. Come here, Mochi. Oh, come here, baby. Oh.
No, that's
Mochi.
That's not a dog. That's a gremlin.
Oh, she's so hyper. Oh.
You're the cutie.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for joining us today. I hope you guys enjoyed our discussion, and we will be discussing Superbad next. And I've never seen it, so I have no idea what to expect. You guys have both seen it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, don't tell me. We'll see what I think.
Okay.
Especially after watching this one. I have a feeling it's not going to be as good. But I don't know. Maybe.
It's funny.
Who's in it? I don't even know. I don't watch comedies. I don't know anything about those.
Just don't worry about it.
Okay. We'll see what happens.
It'll be fine.
Yeah.
You'll like it.
Don't worry about it.
It'll be great. It'll be great.
Don't
We'll see you then.
worry about it.
Okay.